Our next speaker today then is Jack Kelly from Catalyst, speaking to Broadband Interoperability Platform. Jack?
Well, Chris, thanks for that introduction. And for those of you watching, this is probably the fourth or fifth year that I've made a presentation to the first responder community. So it's always a pleasure to be speaking and dealing with all of you. What we've been working on is trying to solve a problem where, as the first responder community begins to deploy communications over broadband networks, what's happened, and I'll get into this in another slide, is that there's been a proliferation of many different broadband networks. And so there's no way that these systems can communicate with each other. And so the challenge is to create a system where no matter what radio system you are on, be it a standards compliant mission critical push to talk or a push to talk over cellular system, that you have this kind of communications. So who does this? Well, this is a first responder problem. So it addresses everyone in the first responder community who are using communications and either have already or are considering moving to LTE and broadband-based communications using smartphones as a technology that may replace the land mobile radio systems that you are currently using. And Catalyst is a prime organization to try and solve this problem, because for the past 5 years on other communications projects that we've been working on with the Department of Homeland Security, we established technologies that allowed land mobile radio users to communicate with these new broadband networks using smartphones and push-to-talk applications. And so as part of that effort, we already had to develop the interfaces to the various broadband systems that were out there. And so it was a relatively straightforward, although not without challenges, but a relatively straightforward process to go and create systems that would allow these disparate broadband networks to communicate with each other. And the reason why we got here is that back in 2012, when FirstNet was first established, the initial idea was that there would be a single first responder network called FirstNet, and that would serve all of the first responder community. But over the ensuing 10 years, what's happened, particularly as FirstNet has deployed, other technologies and other systems have come to play. Some of those, like the system with Southern Link's Critical Link network, are based upon the 3GPP standard for public safety communications. But other systems, including some offered by FirstNet, but other systems are using proprietary systems in order to compete with FirstNet. And so the environment that we find ourselves in is an environment with multiple incompatible proprietary and standards-based systems out there that need to all communicate with each other. So the solicitation from the Department of Homeland Security was really to look at two things. One was to take a look at all of these different broadband systems that were out there and determine if there was a way to make them all communicate with each other. And one of the requirements of the solicitation, because of the deployment of these proprietary systems, was that we look at both the standards compliance systems that were out there and also the wide variety that I just showed on the last slide of proprietary-based systems that were being used by the first responder community. At the bottom of this slide is essentially what these systems look like. We use a platform that we developed called IntelliLink to make these communications capabilities exist. And at the top, what we've developed is essentially a backplane. This is all in software, but it's essentially a backplane that allows these various push-to-talk over cellular and mission critical push-to-talk communication systems to operate with each other. And what I've highlighted in this slide is with the asterisks are the two systems that are based upon the 3GPP standard. And on this slide, I've just added in the asterisks that identify the wide variety of proprietary push-to-talk over cellular or push-to-talk over broadband systems that are out there. And so we've created a backplane that allows for interoperability and communications between all of these various systems. Now, this is somewhat of a complicated slide, but as a result of the prior work that we did with land mobile radio and broadband systems, and our new work in 2023, 24, and coming into 2025, our work in creating broadband systems that work with each other, we're able to offer the first responder community a very homogenized system. We can dispatch to land mobile radio. We can have land mobile radio interoperability between each other. We can have interworking, which is land mobile radio to broadband systems. We can dispatch to broadband, and we can have broadband to broadband communication. So quite a homogenized and fully functional, complete system for the FirstNet community, or excuse me, the first responder community. So where are we? Well, we've already demonstrated our first version of this at IWCE back in March. And we continue to do development. We'll be demonstrating this again at APCO coming up in August. And we're still now working on some major challenges that still exist to make these systems work the way first responders need them to. Two of the really thorny challenges are that the first responder community really needs encryption between these networks as communications occur between these networks. And that's going to be an especially difficult challenge, particularly because the first responder community wants to have encryption end to end, in other words, device to device. And that's going to be a real challenge across networks. The second is that the first responder community is used to having metadata. And by this, I mean, you're used to having emergency transporting between communication devices. They're used to having unit IDs so that they know that who they're talking to. They're used to having GPS data, for example, for location applications. So passing that kind of metadata between these networks is another significant technology challenge. Another issue that's still going on, because this is new to the marketplace, is how the first responder community will actually procure the services. So if you think about how you've procured land mobile radio services in the past, it's primarily buying software, owning that software, and managing your own first responder network. But LTE and broadband are primarily offered by the carriers, or these other organizations that use the carrier network called over-the-top systems. And those systems are typically provided on sort of a SaaS basis, where you're paying a monthly fee for each device. And so the capabilities that allow these devices to communicate across networks, how you're going to determine that, or how you're going to procure that, is still up in the air. Our sense is that long term, it will be on the SaaS model, but this still needs to be worked out by the industry over the next, I would say, year or two. And then, of course, we're still deploying and still demonstrating and exposing this technology to the marketplace. So there's a lot of commercialization activities that are going on regarding trade shows, demonstrations, deployments for testing, deployments for actual use. And those are the activities that we're involved in, particularly in 2024 and 25. The DHS goal, excuse me, DHS goal is that they have technologies for their use, and most of DHS can use this system. And we continue to solicit DHS organizations for trials to continue to test this all out. Just a little bit about Catalyst. What's important about this slide is the bullet that I've highlighted, which is we've been in business now 27 years. And back 27 years ago, we fielded the very, very first radio over IP system for the public safety communications capability. So Catalyst President Robin Greer and one of our early customers sat down and figured out how to use internet protocol networks to replace the leased lines and the microwave lines that were being used between dispatch terminals and radio towers. So we've got a lot of experience working with the first responder community and working with first responder communications. So that's what I have for you today, and I'm happy to take any questions you have about the technology or where we're going with this now. Thanks a lot. Chris?